No one in the audience. No one recording.
Oh, say that. It's not a big.
So
Oh, yeah.
we'll have this recording posted in a couple of days as usual. As has happened over the last 2 years almost. For these master plan advisory committee meetings and also joint with the planning board. So I'd ask Jessica to call the roll.
Marcus Phelps,
Resident.
David Spina,
Here.
Doug Moglen,
Present.
Randy Brown,
Here.
David D. Delory, Bert Hanson,
Here.
Dave McWilliam,
Here.
Norm Cheever,
Here.
Patrick Jubb, Alita De Maria. Here. Scott Lehman, Dory Boyd,
Here.
Ross Terry, Justin Parker here, Corey Rowland, Marissa Cook Obregon here, Michael Doherty, Lucas Karen, Maria Michael.
Elliot.
Elliot.
We got that.
Honorary.
Honorary member attending Elliot. Okay, with that roll call, I'll note that there is no quorum of the planning board, but there is a quorum of the master plan advisory committee.
As always.
Did it.
Thank you very much for attending.
We know how to show up.
Yeah, the world is run by those who show up.
By superpower.
So, item here on the agenda will be public comment and dialogue. Do we have any public comment or dialogue? Hearing none, we'll move to old business. One item, discuss publication of the master plan. And I did look up on the agreement we have with the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. They are to provide us with 10 copies of the plan when it is published. Also, copies of the executive summary, electronic copies of the master plan in Word and PDF format, and the GIS data. So that was what is to be provided. The other thing I thought about and mentioned it to John when I talked to him, maybe the town clerk, that office would like to have some copies to sell. So I asked John to contact them and see if they would like to purchase some of those for sale. Ken, do you know what a copy would run as far as the price?
So, I was able to get one quote. I usually go for three. I was waiting on 2 other ones, but the one quote obviously was the more expensive one. So we used a printer for our previous plans, which for the other plans we printed out 25 and they were 900. But that was specific to a specific type of binding, which is the plastic binding. I don't know if there was a preference by the board. I think I was probably going to do the metal coil, just because the plastic binding is not as nice.
It doesn't hold up.
Yeah, so I think that's gonna add a little cost to that, but the 25 at 900 was the cost that I was quoted. Similar to the previous plans that we did in 2021. What I will say is I did put down 150 pages, which I'm hoping that we don't go over that. Well, we are over that actually.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Sorry about that. So, Yeah, so it's gonna be more than that.
Maybe
But-
$40 a copy.
Yeah, maybe.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
Uh,
Mr. Hanson.
Thank you. Is it, I know 150 pages or 150 plus is a lot of pages, but is it possible to print those here at Town Hall? Or I'm kind of not so comfortable with charging residents for their own master plan, you might say.
I think that it's gonna be available online, and I think most people will partake of it, and that will be free, obviously. And we're gonna have a couple copies at the library, a couple few at the library that people can check out.
Right.
And so, but if somebody wants their own personal, want Marcus to sign the inside cover, I don't know, page, then they could buy one from the town clerk at whatever the cost is. It's gonna be $40, $50 by the time you get to the metal binding, and brevity not being our strong suit. We're blowing the number out on the pages, so my guess is gonna be $50.
Yeah, all right, yeah, that's, if there are other ways to get it, I guess that's.
Yeah.
That's good.
And
Yeah, absolutely.
you would try to get some more quotes, Ken?
Oh, yes, I will,
Because,
I do use a
know.
printer up in Hampshire County, that I typically use, but, I think what has happened in the past is PABC, like, I have a personal relationship with one of the printers, so I'm hoping that she can continue to
Yeah.
But, I mean, I think based on the fact that there was a budget of, I think, 900, probably a little bit less, in the phase one, budget for the 10 copies, there's a little more than 10 that you're getting, and obviously, I think, we'll see what a final page count looks like based on, I know that there is some minor edits to grammar and syntax at the moment, but presumably we can, after the formatting's done, probably find maybe a little less, pages.
And we wouldn't print until after the planning board
For sure,
has
yes,
done all their,
yeah.
for
For the
review and whatever, yeah.
Yeah, and so what probably will happen is, we'll print a copy in-house as John did for the planning board members that were here at the last meeting. Once that's finalized, just, paper copies using our printers, of the total plan, once we're finalized at that point. And then if there are edits after that, obviously, we'll address that. When we did the master plans for the other communities, we didn't print until like 4 or 5 months after. But you're gonna have hopefully, after the planning board adopts it, it'll be short after that we are ready to print.
Okay. Dave McWilliams, comment.
Yeah, I was just thinking, why don't we talk to like our local printer and see what they would charge us to have them printed off in case people wanted them after the fact.
What is that? I didn't hear.
Why don't we look at like our local printer, like Southwoods or someone?
Oh, local,
To see what our cost would be to get them printed here
okay,
as well.
yeah,
And then they would have the PDF on file. Any residents that wanted a printed copy, we could recommend that they go up there. I mean, keep it local if we can.
John, maybe you and Ken can
We can
see how that, might play out.
Sure.
Yeah, what I will say too is obviously there's the body of the plan, which is the executive summary through the last chapter. And then there's the appendix, with whatever that looks like will be probably a separate binder. Which will be a cost too, depending on how much copies the board may want or the town may want. But like you said, Mr. Chair, all of these will be available online, that will create the chapters, and every chapter will get its own hyperlink. And so once the finalizing of the plan is done, we'll, create those shortcuts and hyperlinks and then save the PDF and the Word document for the town to have.
Marissa,
Just in terms of e-publication for this, do you?
oh, could you speak up
Do
probably?
you have an ETA for the electronic version pending, some grammatical and kind of graphic correction? I ask because we have an article that is slated to be published in November's issue of the local paper. And it's imploring people to check out the website. And it states that it's not the final version, it's pending review, but the idea is to get people acquainted with it so that when they hopefully go to the planning board hearing on the 12th of December, they have some reference. And I don't know if at that point it'd be helpful to send the PDF, just a draft copy.
Yeah,
So
sure.
that people do save that, but do we have an ETA on that, so we can get that on the website in the
Yeah.
meantime and go to print with this article?
Sure, so, you know, the thing is there, once we, and, you know, we'll discuss the graphics, because I think there's some missing pieces that we have to finalize. But, I'm working on the graphics, obviously, I think Rob is doing line by line syntax and grammar edits. Presumably, once those are turned around, I was contemplating like the first week of November, that would all be completed, at least the draft version as you mentioned. I think, what towns have done in the past, you're alluding to that, is, drawing attention to the draft and providing that, you know, a time period by which they can comment or, you know, whatever, and then, you know, presumably the planning board may get there, but yeah, so you have a draft at that time.
The first week of
Yeah.
November, so that's.
That's the goal based on the turnaround, to do line by line edits that's currently happening.
That works, right? I mean, Southwoods comes out like mid-March.
Exactly, I think that should be fine, and we'll have it up on the website, if people do go. Thank you.
Good. Any other comments? People online? Thank you. Ken, did you say you wanted to also mention the graphics?
Yeah,
I mean,
so-
I probably would wanna cover that under here,
Sure.
topic under this item.
Quickly. So I did receive some comments regarding some of the initial graphics, and I'm still trying to retrieve and hopefully can rely on some of your networks for some photos. Let's see. Don? You can
Yes, of
allow me to
course.
share.
My apologies.
What are we?
Sorry, kid, try again. It happens.
So, so the 4-season front cover, you know, I showed a couple of photos here, and obviously the place sort of Marisa provided a lot of great photos from Farm Day, that will be utilizing in both, you know, on the cover hopefully, and other places in the plan. But the photo from Congamon Lakes and the snow photo are from Jason. The fall photo, there was a request for a certain type, what was it? The fall theme of the Groster Farm located at 12 Side Road. If there are photos to share, I'd love to include it. I don't like the puzzle pieces, they're just gonna be square, like that. So, I tried to play around with different types of frames there, but I think the squares work fine. So for the front page, you know, if there are other photos that you may want, as we're looking at the 4 seasons for this front page, we can definitely use those.
I had mentioned, the one that's pretty well known is the fall scene at the Broxville Park
Yeah,
on Hillside Road, but if there's another one with, you know, the foliage colors
sure.
is kind of what.
Might have that,
Plan.
yeah,
I know Farm Day was in summer, so that's the
yeah.
sunflower, not necessarily. So the next page, there were some minor edits that the chair had suggested, and those are contemplated here. They, you know, some commas and sort of. And so the other thing was the chapter icons. So I realized in the executive summary, this is not the entirety of the plan, these are the components of the graphics that I will need to incorporate. And So, we had the spread for each chapter. The suggestion was to put the iconography on the first page and then also spread it throughout the pages of on the Word document. So that will be the goal for all of the pages in the plan.
Is that the right?
No, that's not.
Whatever.
But I wanted to show you that the
Where the-
treatment was gonna be a green
Oh,
circle
okay.
with
Because our buildings cannot be over 35 feet tall.
So the goal will be to treat the right-hand page when you open the plan. That will have the vision and the title of the chapter along with the icon that we established that is in the executive summary. So that will be the case for all of the chapters. That is the wrong chapter, or the wrong icon for land use. So I put something there to show. There was a suggestion for a photo here for economic development to be the industrial park sign. It was from the Southwick brochure, the Southwick 2040 brochure. So, Maurice, I think you prepared that, you put that together, that photo is available. Yeah, if you can send that, we'll put that.
There was a comment on this, a lot of impervious surface. A
Yes,
lot of,
Yeah.
more paving than building maybe, but.
Well, I
Yeah.
think all the parking lots are empty too, that doesn't help promote that development, you know.
There's a lot of potential, plenty of parking in Southwick, please drive here, right?
Right.
So we can play around with either the layout for that, depending on, I know that the fog is kind of cool, but.
Yeah.
also
That is pretty.
Fog and economic development, I don't know, like, does that.
You can Photoshop that.
Yeah.
Comment graphically, I was going through this and kind of looking at this now before, for these headers,
Yeah,
since you're using white font, I mean, that's fine, but could you make it a little bit bigger and bolder? Just
Sure.
because I think it's important in chapter headers to kind of make them stand out a little bit more, so I think it can stay white, but just graphically, when you do white, it needs to be bigger, bigger.
yeah, and with the icon, that makes sense.
And if you add the icon as well, yeah, but definitely like bigger in size and just bolder, thicker font,
Sure.
possible please, yeah.
So the only other photo that's changed from the previous one, there was a suggestion to use for the historic cultural chapter, a photo or available artist rendering of the Morehouse cigar factory. Also add a photo of the annual art show, so, people, buildings, if there's one that you feel strongly about, I'd love to include there. This is what we have for open space, public services and facilities. Suggestion for this was, a photo of the school campus. Is that right? Yeah. And then transportation, which maybe I don't know, this is not related to transportation. We figure out what that is, and I found, on the website, you have solar, right? And so I have changed the sustainability, so I utilize that photo from the website, but it would be very much there. So we'll go from there, and then, like I said, each chapter will have its own icon. And, as will the page numbers, there'll be a little icon.
What do people feel about the readability of that vision statement in the green box?
Needs to be bigger than.
Not loving
Yeah.
Would it be a different background color with? I
So
don't
I
know.
think one, it should be
Not a graphic.
not a tight, where you see how vision is kind of a tab on the top and the last sentence cut short. I mean, it just looks, I would rather just, if it's gonna be in a box, have it be everything in a full box. Follow what I'm saying?
And solid, it's got
Yes,
no opacity,
like an
the
actual
opacity makes it hard to read.
No opacity?
I think so, the background's distracting from.
If it was a white box, I mean, the lettering on the top is white. If it was a white box with the black lettering, would that?
Simple, clear,
Black or dark, we could have the white.
yeah, something.
Contract.
White box, no opacity, and black letters.
Yeah.
And the title will remain white, or do you want that black?
Well, I would,
It depends,
oh, the title of
Well, it
the,
would depend too, based on the photo that we're using.
right.
And what about the, where the icon, I got the icon in a green circle, do you want a white circle?
I thought it was funny. I thought the research.
Green circle.
Yeah, the green circle does have opacity. But,
Well, play with it,
Yeah.
you know, see what it looks like if you have the.
yeah, what I
Vision
do,
statement in a white box, then maybe a white background on that icon would, you know.
I'll, put together a couple of options.
Can those vision statement boxes also always be like a bottom aligned footer instead of sort of floating?
Can you repeat that one more time?
Could you repeat that, Dory?
Can the vision statement be bottom aligned and treated as a footer on all the pages instead of floating up a little?
So right down on the bottom of the page,
Yeah.
okay?
and Ken, you were talking about pagination, right? So just from the draft, when I was trying to print stuff out, the pages with the pictures weren't actually included in the page count. So it kind of skewed everything. You would have like page 10, a picture page, and then page 11 would have print.
When you printed the copy?
Yeah. Yeah, so just double check it, because I don't think that, again, the pages with the pictures were included in the sequential page count.
Okay, which they should be.
And that could have been just a draft thing, but if it isn't, we're gonna give you a chance to take a look at it.
That was it for some, graphic updates, considering the photos that we were looking at. Again, we can. Someone has an idea about transportation, or access to some of those photos I was talking about. For this short section. That, there were some photos also that I'd like to include on the community event as well as conference and marketing photos. Those will be incorporated within the text. Once we finalize the text, so that I can just swap the photos and then later on the format.
On transportation, way back when, I had mentioned, an EV charging station. And then also
Where? Yeah, that's a lot of time.
and that, by 2040, we might have 3 in town. Oh, 1? Okay. And any kind of a project like you have there of the excavation type infrastructure. Yeah.
Yeah, any photos?
I'm trying to think, I try to find a photo for it.
Yeah, I can, yes, I will include the EV charger within the body, we can talk about it. As an example, so we can definitely do that.
Under public facilities and services, I had suggested a rail trail kiosk at Miller Road. And that aerial of the school campus
Yes,
might be a nice one to have under the public facilities. That's that whole, I don't know where you were using that. I think under finance.
yeah, so.
I think there's something else that would, but whatever. Okay, any other comments on what Ken has been showing? Jumping back to, the publication, the third thing I had in mind, people could, if they wanted to, make a donation to the gift fund. We have a gift account that was established for the master plan process. And I think, John, how much is left in the gift account? Drum roll. No? Ballpark.
$46, $41.24.
Okay, so $41, that might buy one copy.
May.
Maybe. So anyway, I'll pledge personally $100 I will give to the gift account to make some more copies. So if anybody else has any,
John, you take Venmo?
The gift account takes that.
the only thing we don't take is Bitcoin.
Slip from Las Vegas.
Or any, yeah, right, okay. So that was, another potential source of funds. All right, are we pretty well got that one, I guess, under control? New business, we had a request last meeting to sort of have a summary of the whole financial record, I guess you would say. Record. Yes. Mr. Goddard.
That's a good word to choose.
Yes.
I like that. Okay, first, I'll say that I don't expect every task or project, to pan out the way this one has from a financial standpoint. But I'll explain to you my, rosy response, to the pleasant surprise. I walked through the door of the planning office with the vast majority of our phase one work having already been funded through prior work by the planning board and Mr. Phelps. We then, of course, had the generosity of the gift account, which funded not only the remainder of phase one, but a number of niceties and outreach efforts that we were able to implement throughout this process. And then the phase two funding was not only supported by town, but also then further supporting the grants fund. So let's take a look real quick at how that pans out. As I mentioned, phase one, $25,000 general fund. Then an additional $2,955 from the master plan gift account. The original balance on that gift account was $7,250 between the donations from the state of Southwick and People's Bank.
People's Bank.
People's Bank, did I say it right?
Yes.
Nobody else like skewered me for looking at it. I'll take that. So just short of 28,000, frankly contracted, and just short of that, frankly invoice from the PPC for phase one work. Phase two, our local funds are an amount of $55,000. We received a $50,000 planning assistance grant from the state. So the vast majority of the local funds, assuming everything goes to plan, will not be utilized. A portion of them have to cover, I would call it, the balance of our efforts for outreach and printings and And certainly everything else went into supporting a lot of our meetings and efforts. To date, we have, only spent out roughly, 16,000 of those phase two funds. I imagine that in frankly, just a few weeks or a month or two, that PVPC will make us aware of the remainder that's owed under that $50,000 contract for the phase two effort. And as I mentioned, 7,250 was our gift account to work with. There's about $2,800 went to support the phase one effort. And so the remainder went to those publications and maintenance and marketing efforts that were undertaken. So just about $40 more left in that account. I can only hope that the next project I embark upon with the town is so well funded that I can give reports like this when all comes to a close.
Any questions for John, Marissa?
Will the breakdown of the expenditures be included somewhere in the appendix? I think we had discussed that at some point to have some specificity of where and what was used.
I can provide it in full detail, if necessary.
I think that would be good to see living public documents, so
Sure.
that would be fantastic, thank you.
Can,
Yeah, maybe by some specific, like, categories. I don't know. Like,
Yeah,
Yeah,
consultation with PVPC, mailings, events, things like that, just so that people really understand transparently what went to what. So that they get the big picture of everything that we did.
that makes sense. I can,
then it might help it out in another community,
Right.
because I know we were looking around, when we were starting the process, what's it cost to, whatever, so. Yeah, Ken,
So I wanted to add so you have the phase one and the phase two work, right? So a good chunk also was supported by district local technical assistance in last year's budget. That was at the cost of $20,000.
so that's also phase two?
That was, because it's like between phase one and phase two, with a separate contract that, was managed by we, just to ensure that the draft of the chapters is done. But I think, regarding phase two, there is some additional work that was listed in the scope, that, John and the planning board will be utilizing the remaining funds, $50,000.
And the Community Preservation Act funded the housing production plan. So that would show up. I think we had divided that out as we proceeded through the planning process, because some of it was wrapped up in our events and information we sent out. So I don't know how probably the majority is standalone as for the housing production plan.
that's right, we've got, so within these contracts, we incorporated the housing production plan into PVPC's work, albeit, or I should say, although separate, related to a lot of our master plan efforts. So we do have a contract remaining in place for them for about $17,000. Another $1,000 held for contingencies from those original CDC funds. And looks like we've got roughly another 3,300 or so that it was as that housing production plan process dropped through the post.
Because that'll be a printed document in some form.
That's correct.
But when that gets completed.
Nice.
Okay. And we'll have a copy at the library, and we should have a copy at the library. That's a good place to put things. They don't get lost or whatever. Any other comments, questions for John? Okay, thank you, John, for that update. We're at routine business. First, let's tackle approval of the October 5th, 2023 minutes. I'd entertain a motion on that. Motion made by Randy Brown to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
Normal second.
Second by Norm Cheever. Roll call vote.
Marcus Phelps,
Aye.
David Spina,
Aye.
Doug Mogul,
Aye.
Randy Brown,
Aye.
Bert Hanson,
Aye.
Dave McWilliams,
Aye.
Norm Cheever,
Aye.
Alita De Maria.
Abstain. The minutes, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Jory Boyd,
Aye.
Justin Parker, aye. And Marissa Cook Overgone.
Okay, with that roll call, we have majority vote to pass that with one abstention. So we're all set for the 5th. And we'll deal with tonight's meeting minutes as the town clerk directs us. Okay, so last item, any committee member comments? Yes, Marissa?
Is this our last meeting then? Just wanted to clarify that. So based on that, I'm just wondering, in terms of the master plan implementation formation, it sounded like the planning board chair from our last meeting, Mr. Doherty, had wanted that to kind of be a standalone committee, not part of the planning board. So I'm just wondering what the pathway is pending approval from the planning board, hopefully December 12th, or whenever that happens of this plan. What our steps are, I'm curious, how is that going to take shape, form, just so that we can kind of make sure that there's some continuity. What are the thoughts?
I was thinking about that on the flight back last night and Mr. Doherty's comment, initially I thought, no, the planning board, this is their plan, whatever, but then on the implementation side, it's a town activity. So I guess I defer to Mr. Mulder, but my thought is the select board would appoint a committee. And of course, our recommendation was a 5-person, specifying a select board member, a planning board member, and then 3 residents. So, I would think the select board could do that, appoint that group, whatever. Mr. Mogul.
I concur, and subject to the planning board, accepting the master plan, then we would carry that to have that an appointed committee. It would be my suggestion to appoint it for a partial year to get it on cycle with other appointments, so we don't bullocks it up in July of next year. But that would be my take on it. And I think that was the discussion at this, either 1 or 2 meetings ago, was to have it be not a planning board sub, but to be just a regular standing committee. And then have it appointed that way. Like
So what would you be looking at for a term? Right, so I understand you wanna go
that's a great question.
kind of catch up with the cycle, right? But it's a 20-year document, and not to say it's a 20-year term, but I think.
Anybody want to sign up for
20 years sentence, you mean a 20-year sentence?
20 years.
Get parole sooner for a felony. Now, I think you would stagger them, and just my opinion, I'm but one member. I think you would do it for a period and to get to next July, and then have some kind of staggered term of, I would 3-ish.
You know, that's, I think Ken had mentioned that 3 years was sort of
Ken's a
time
smart
frame.
guy.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think three,
great
and then
minds. great
you might
minds
do it a
think alike.
1, a 2, and a 3, and then thereafter 3, so that you end up with them, so you have that continuity on a board.
Timeframe wise, would this possibly start as soon as, or the process of forming this, would it start as soon as January or February? I mean, just to kind of understand where we're at timetable wise.
Obviously you have to go back, hopefully an approval in December, right?
Exactly.
I don't know, I leave it to the whoever is going to determine who serves on that. Obviously, there are some of those mechanisms that have to be followed. But presumably, someone, the planning board and or the select board, or some of those conversations.
If it pleases the master plan advisory committee, I will carry this to bring up under new business at the next select board meeting on 10/3.
And I had the idea when Mike Doherty was here last meeting that the December 12th would be kind of the start of the public hearings, right? It would be one session.
Right, it's kind of their call as to how many hearings, and even if they're going to call it a public hearing, I don't know. There's, of course,
That's his intention.
legal advertisement requirements, et cetera, and whatever. So January optimistically would be a good.
There's a lot of work in here dated 2024, so I think January is probably a good idea.
I think that they're not under statutory obligation to hear it as a public hearing, but they're gonna do it that way. They're gonna advertise it, they're gonna have, and treat it just like a public hearing so that everybody has an opportunity to weigh in. We've had, obviously numerous opportunities for public discourse here, but I don't at all disagree with his methodology for the planning board. My guess is they're not gonna close it on December 12th and then vote for your 1,000% right. But I at least get it on the select board agenda to start recruiting. Because even if we say, if by some miracle they get it done in December, and then we talk about it, then we've got to I'd like to get a list of people that are very interested to serve on that committee so that we can then schedule a time that people come in and make their point of wanting to be on that sub.
Marissa, question again?
Yeah, just on the question of recruiting, seeing that's the final meeting, I just wanted this comment to go on record. I mentioned it at the AdCom meeting last week, thinking about this potential structure of planning board, select board, and then 3 Southwick residents. Thinking about it a little bit more, reviewing the plan, I'd like to just mention that I think one of those 3 resident positions could be given to a business owner. Just because the input that we got from Scott Lehman during this process was invaluable. And I think being a very business-centric plan, we have a robust economic development chapter, and just the other chapters, even land use, open space, there's a lot of cross-pollination with the idea of business development in some capacity to bolster those topics. And it just would make sense to have somebody on there that maybe is not a resident, but is nonetheless part of the Southwick community and their stakeholder. Doesn't have to be a rogue business person. It could be somebody who's participating and active in town, just like how Scott has been. But I think that would be really important to get that representation. If we do want to be an inviting business community.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, are we all set there? I see Mr. Cheever has handed out something. You probably would want to make a comment as a committee member on this.
Yes, I have a personalized handout for everybody, in the room. Those of you online, I apologize, you don't have yours in front of you. The first three sections are the same on everybody's, but then the last section or section is if you're on a specific committee, you'll get all of the action items, both lead and support of the committees that you're on. The first page here is just a summary of the 138 action items, who owns them, and planning board leads the task with 34. Has 25 support actions for a total of 59 actions. So, again, all 138 are on this sheet. There's several people that just have one, but they're on here. The second page is the progress card, which I had promised. And this also has all 138 on it. It's listed by chapter, the action items, and the lead of that particular action items. And then as we saw earlier in our time period together, we saw the status columns above. This will be a starting point for the master plan implementation committee. They can modify this as they see fit, but they have a starting point. Then at the meeting when I showed this months ago, Marissa had said, well, how are we going to know what the individual action items are here? So attached to that is a list of all action items from 1 to 138. They must be attached to the scorecard. So you'll have the chapter number and the lead and the priority given, and then the actual action item. So we'll be able to look them up very quickly if you so desire, and I have to go through all 5 chapters. Okay? Yeah. Then let's pick agriculture, because we have 2 members on agriculture. This is the individual lead role for the agricultural commission. They have, looks like 5 there. They're the lead. And they have short term, whatever, and the actual action item. So it's organized for them. And then we have for agriculture, we have the supporting roles. Again, I have the chapter, the action item, who the lead is, priority, and the action items there. So for each committee, they can have at their fingertips very soon what their action items are. And we have this done for every one of the 138 and all of the committees, boards, commissions, and even outside organizations that are involved. If there were support activities that involve state agencies, I did not include them. I did not include the Rotary Club because that our view is the Westfield organization, even though we are part of that. And if they're a local organization, I try to include them there.
Well, and the Rotary is Southwick.
It is Southwick, the Rotary, it's the economic, whatever it is.
Chamber of Commerce.
Chamber of Commerce.
But Rotary does have a Southwick.
Oh, okay.
Chamber of Commerce is the one that's mainly, well, it's Westfield
Yeah, I can
now.
go back.
We don't have,
Include that, the Rotary, think they'd like that?
They'd love it.
Okay, I'll do that, the Rotary. I'll add, and they don't have any main action, lead actions, but they have several support actions. So I'll add that. And for those of you online, I can give your personal copy to John in the office here. If you want to pick it up, you can have it. And any questions?
Well done.
yes,
you.
excellent, excellent. To sort it that way, and it really facilitates, you know, the groups that will be doing the work. Yeah.
Norm, do we have this electronically too?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. Johnson.
just skimming through, I feel compelled to say that agriculture is already working on some of that stuff.
All right. Well, I'm sure some of the other boards and commissions are also working.
I'm sure.
They may not realize that they're accomplishing things. That report card is gonna look great. Yeah. Okay, any other committee member comments?
I just have two, if you don't mind.
Nope.
One is, to what you just said. Just observing plenty of meetings, and I'm sure Ms. Gale as well can relate. Observing a lot of board and committee meetings, including our own meeting on the select board, we've been very mindful of the master plan process and some of the preliminary data that came out of the master plan process as we went along. And I know on several occasions was very clear that, hey, the master plan is telling us this. We need to be mindful and cognizant of that. I've noticed the planning board's done it. AgCom's been very vocal about it, Concom, and others as well as they go about their routine business. So I think you're right. The master plan publication is going to have effect, but I think it already has. So kudos to everyone. Second thing is just briefly, I don't know if anyone noticed or heard that Governor Healy was in Western Mass this week touting housing. So it's very timely with some of the stuff that was around the housing plan and some of the housing stuff. There's a very significant amount of bond bill money that's put up in that act. It also includes, it would codify the state law accessory dwellings up to 900 square feet allowed by right. Overriding zoning, communities would have limited opportunity to put restrictions on that. And it also has a 0.5% of 1% to 2% local option tax on sale prices over $1 million or the median sale price in the county. And that technically that tax would be paid by the seller. And it's a local option, so it would have to come in front of town meeting here via the select board to come into law. I haven't formed an opinion on it. I'm just reading you the facts. So obviously the housing thing it's obviously a concern nationally. It's a huge concern in the eastern part of the state and here as well. So and the governor was in at least Springfield and Pittsfield talking about this just Tuesday. Yeah. Thank you.
Wow.
That's it.
Thank you. Good information. Speaking of housing, Ken, could you share anything on the housing production plan? Which is a separate plan, but I
Yes.
think we are interested in, or some of the committee members would be interested.
I definitely have a short.
A short?
Short is
No.
not what we presented. Let me quickly, So I think as I mentioned in the past, with regard to housing production plan, there's a lot of communities that have found that pairing another plan with the master plan process is, I think it allows there to be a little bit of benefit of ensuring, that there's conversations they're having related to that topic. Formatting is off on here, obviously. So quickly, with regards to what housing production plans are, their roadmap to ensure creation of new affordable housing units in the community and a tool to prevent unwanted Chapter 40B comprehensive permit developments. The state does set a 10% goal of affordable housing units that are affordable to low and moderate income residents. That's based on the Springfield metro area. And those allowances. The benefits of a certified housing production plan, the ZBA may deny a 40B comprehensive permit application and require developers to comply with local zoning and environmental regulations. And Southwick will be given preference over non-housing production plan communities for certain state grant funds. So I think that those are some benefits to getting a certified housing production plan. Again, the commentary about preventing unwanted 40B development is a certified housing production plan which demonstrates sufficient progress toward goals, or by meeting the state benchmark that 10% of housing units be affordable. So there is nuance between approval versus certification of a housing production plan. An approval by the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities is done. That is when the HLC will approve the plan. We've shared the draft plan with them to determine if it's in accordance with the form of the plan. As I mentioned, it's very prescriptive, and there are components of the plan which are addressed. So there's an approval that happens by the state. In order for a housing production plan to be certified, however, the town must generate the required number of new affordable units. So 0.5% of existing units within a single calendar year. The certification lasts for 1 year. If the town develops 21 affordable housing units in a year, then the plan can be certified. With regards to the prescribed components of the housing production plan, an assessment of unmet housing needs in the community, and this all comes from Chapter 40B, where it discusses the components of the housing production plan as well as the comprehensive urban plan. So an assessment of unmet housing needs in the community, residents, and some data that supports those that are cost burdened with housing. We did discuss that at some points during the master plan process. Assessing constraints to new housing, both zoning and environmental, those are components. Setting goals for the development of new affordable housing to meet those ends, and laying out specific strategies to encourage and create affordable housing. A housing production plan is approved for a 5-year period. So with the assumption that this is approved by both the planning board and select board at a future point, it will last 5 years of that approval. So how achieving the town's goals, how do we get there? There are 5 components of what you need in a housing production plan as far as how you're going to address the development of affordable housing. You need to participate in regional collaborations addressing housing development. So you are doing that by being in the Pioneer Valley, working with the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. There's Wayfinders, Valley Community Development Corporation. So there are opportunities there for the town to take with regards to examining how to promote affordable housing development. A statement of characteristics of both residential and mixed-use developments that will be referred by the municipality. So the listing here, these come from the conversations that we were having in the master plan process. Senior housing 55+ with a percentage of affordable units, mixed-use developments, condos and townhouses, assisted living facilities, accessory apartment, possibly tiny homes. With that said, I think that the conversation here also is that this doesn't necessarily is specific to subsidized housing inventory, which is that magical number that the state assigns to the town based on the amount of housing units you have in town. The 10% is the goal. But I think this also addresses just housing development in general, both low, moderate income and the availability of housing to purchase it in town. But so it's not necessarily all to address the subsidized housing inventory. I think these were a lot of comments that were captured regarding housing in general. Identification of zoning districts or areas of town where it's possible that the town can modify current regulations for the purposes of creating the subsidized housing inventory, eligible housing units to meet the housing production goal. Adding mixed use to town center, exploring benefits of the accessory apartment zoning bylaw. Consider allowing housing for elderly and or handicapped persons in residential zones with limitations on density and other impacts. So this is a conversation, I believe that, my colleague Lori, who prepared the plan, discussed with, town staff in regards to opportunities within town where possibly, there could be some affordable housing development. So, you know, with that said, there are opportunities that are listed here that would probably need some due diligence and feasibility studies as to the appropriateness of that type of development in that area. But these were locations that were identified. There is a requirement in the plan in a housing production plan where parcels have to be identified. I think generally the discussion leads to these are parcels that can be explored for development, in addition to identifying partners for housing developers, nonprofits that can help the town possibly develop property, in addition to ensuring that these particular pieces of land may be applied for housing development and not impactful to the environment.
I'd just make a couple comments on these since
Yes.
John and I were involved in trying to find some places potentially. So the Pratt land and the Davis Trust land are both across the street from the Lady of the Lake Church. The Pratt land is a sand pit. It's totally undeveloped. The Davis Trust land is where Blossoming Acres used to do business. There's a house there, but there's also quite a bit of acreage. And of course, it's also the Aaron Circle elderly housing is across the street. The 628 College Highway is the Fowler Apartments. There currently exists, but in the back, there's quite a large area, about 20 acres, that is not developed. It's wooded property. So it once is adjacent and owned by that JNF management. McMaster property is on Point Grove Road. It is adjacent to the, help me with the name, Lake something Apartments?
Lakewood Village.
Lakewood Village. It's a large wooded tract, well, large, 5.6 acre wooded tract, that shows up easily on the town GIS. The lake property is 457 College Highway, right across the street from Town Hall here. There's a house on the property, the historical home here. But then on the west side of the brook, as part of that property, there's 12 or so acres that's just vacant land. And it's not really accessible from College Highway because of that stream that comes, I think it's Puddle Brook maybe is it called? But it could be accessed off of Granville Road. Through an existing road that dead ends coming south off Granville Road. So those were some specific properties that, and these are privately owned properties. This is private land, so whatever group that's involved in implementing the housing production plan would have to talk to those people. I mean, obviously the J&F management, they do apartments and they've already done 2 or 3 units there, Fowler apartment. So anyway, that's a little more backstory on that.
So another component, that is to be presented in the production plan is identifying municipal or housing authority parcels for the town to commit to issue RFPs, but commit typically means explore RFPs to develop subsidized housing inventory eligible housing. So again, these would be housing units that would be eligible to be included in your inventory. And so there were two parcels identified here, it's Randall Road and 2 States Road.
I'll mention, say a little more about 15 Granville Road. There's a single house, family home on it, but then behind that, there's almost 4 acres of vacant property. So whether or not a driveway could be put in to, serve a unit of some kind or a couple of units built in the back. And that's property that the town owns. And the other one, that's right at the Connecticut state line, right? 2 States Road. And Mr. Garber helped me, apparently a few years back, there was a proposed project there. And I guess Mrs. Gale has been involved, and now the housing authority is aware of that.
That property.
Yeah, the housing authority. So those are 2 properties that the town would have control of as far as inviting some kind of proposals. So, okay.
And so as I mentioned, those were the components of the plan and in your plan that would need to be presented to the state. So that was a summary of that. Next steps, approve the plan, the requirement is approved by the planning board and the select board. And then we will assume that based on comments that we may get from the state, we'll revise and refine it appropriately. But presuming that the planning board and select board approve that refined copy, we submit that for state approval and the town has a housing production. And that's it.
Any comments? Thank you for the brevity of the presentation. Okay, I think that covers most of the things we wanted to cover. Mr. Goddard?
Just a quick note, so over the past roughly 2 years, we have been maintaining, publicly funded, albeit privately, executed website, Southwick2040.com, and largely with the assistance and talent of, Maria, executed the vast majority of the administration and creative work, for that website. To that point, in April, our domain registration expires. This work, as we see here, this component and for the public outreach of Southwick2040.com comes to a close. Unless there's some inclination to somehow massage the message. Beyond that point, it's traditionally websites are decommissioned by snapshotting, if you will, the tree, so it becomes a static document at that point in time. Disappears from the internet, but can be archived locally. So I'll entertain any suggestions if someone wishes to see a different end of life cycle for.
What is the cost, John?
200, well, let me put it this way, we have 2 different expenses, right? One's relatively modest. Google Domains is changing over to Squarespace, so the number is nebulous. Let's just say it's, probably less than $40 a year.
We have $46.
$146.
Well, no. No, that's for publication of the master plan.
And we currently subscribe to wix.com for a convenient interface to implement, these changes. I think that means we own the content, we own the HTML language, and we can exit that, that's $264 a year, now that we're in our second year, out of the promotional, beginning. So that's the answer.
So it's about $300 for a year.
If I may. So
Mr. McWilliams,
I think initially it would be a good place to have a link to the master plan electronically, because people may be used to going to that space for master plan related business, whatever. The other thing is the master plan implementation committee. Is there gonna be a need moving forward for them to have an online presence, and why recreate the wheel if we've already got something established?
Yeah, April's way too soon for that to go away, in my opinion.
I'm all ears.
maybe you can include that.
But nonetheless, if there's a purpose, then let's.
Yeah. Well, Ken, so,
So I don't know how all this stuff works, so I would probably rely on colleagues to kind of determine that. We've done in the past. Not necessarily the external site that the town has prepared, but PVPC often does master plan websites, and they are living, they're obviously not being edited, but presumably, I don't know how, what effort it would take or what kind of cost there may be, but presumably we could do something similar. It would have PVPC, your web address, as does those other master plans that still have the website, in years after they completed. So, I can explore that, if the board, like the committee wants me to, as an option for it to just kind of live after we update the plan lives on that, and any other kinds of documents that you want to include there.
Diane Gale, comment.
That we know what the traffic is to that website. Yeah, statistics of it.
Question was, how much traffic do we have on the current website?
Recently, but we do get traffic whenever we post it on Facebook that there's an event or a meeting, but I haven't checked it in the last month or so, so. It could be used for, progress report, that's what I updated, yeah, major segments that might be embarking.
So it should be a resource that the implementation committee would want to, sort of weigh in on. And with the, understanding it's about $300 or whatever. I mean, well, who knows? I'm assuming the implementation committee might have a budget of some kind, but who knows? All right, thank you, John, that's excellent, because it's served us well in getting the word out to people, so. And that was our objective, was to have as much information out there for people to look at and come join in. All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion to submit a request to the planning board that the master plan advisory committee be dissolved.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Mogul,
Second.
seconded by Dave McWilliams. Any discussion?
Thank you again, everybody.
I would just like to thank everyone who has participated. It's been a blessing for me to oversee this effort, and you guys have done, men and women have done yeoman work in showing up and getting the job done. So with that, we'll do a roll call on the motion.
Marcus Phelps,
Aye.
Dave Spina,
Aye.
Doug Mogul,
Aye.
Randy Brown,
Aye.
Bert Hanson,
Aye.
Dave McWilliams,
Aye.
Norm Schubert,
Aye.
Alita De Maria,
I don't know.
No, okay. Dory, is Dory still on?
Yeah.
Dory
Aye.
Boyd,
Aye.
Jessica Parker, aye, and Marissa Cook Overgard.
All right. With that vote, we're going to ask to be dissolved. And
Are there minutes from
Unanimous.
today's meeting? How does that get resolved?
pardon?
Are there minutes from today's meeting?
There will be, yes, and John will have to work that out with the town clerk. I don't know if we can approve things electronically, or they just go into that, mysterious place where all records go.
John can drive around all our heads.
I think for the
Yeah.
committee, we authorized
Well, he's the
chair
historic
to draft and approve minutes.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Brown, or no,
Seconded Mr. Brown's motion.
okay, seconded by Mr. Moglen to authorize the chair to sign the minutes from this meeting. October 19th meeting. Roll call vote.
That was the last one.
Hey,
Marcus Phelps,
aye.
Steve Peanut,
Aye.
Doug Mogul,
Aye.
Randy Brown,
Aye.
Bert Hanson,
Aye.
Dave McWilliams.
Hi.
Forgot how to do that. Norm Cheever,
Aye.
Dory Boyd,
Aye.
Jessica Parker, aye, Marissa Cook Overgard.
Thank you for the power of the pen, which is really a nice pen that I got in Las Vegas. Anyway, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn this.
Let Marissa make that motion, please, Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
Pardon?
Make the motion to adjourn.
Oh,
Marissa.
I make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
okay. Marissa Oberon made a motion to adjourn. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded by Bert Hanson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? No.